Hey everyone, you are watching Conversations in Pop Culture, and I am your host, Andrew Davis. And before we really get into this interview, I do want to remind everyone that you need to support and financially support what you love, whether it is this show, my guests, wrestling in general, your favorite wrestling promotion, or corporate media. Without your financial support, things do not get made, or more of it doesn't get made. But enough about that, because I have with me professional wrestler, Brother Greatness from the Church of Greatness. And I don't know if I'm qualified to do this interview because I am just good. But enough about that. Welcome to the show.
Hallelujah. Nice to be seen by everyone. God bless. God bless.
Yeah, no, I'm very, very, very excited to have you on because you are unbelievably talented. You have been killing it in the last year at Wrestling Open. And I think one of the greatest things that has been in wrestling, and there's been about 5 things that have been amazing in the last probably 18 months. And one of them is the Church of Greatness. And I am curious how this formed because you've been wrestling for 10 years. And I think this is the best moment of your career. And I think you're just starting to come into your stride in a lot of ways. And feel free to disagree, but I think this is your best form at the moment.
Yeah, no, this is definitely unique. I've been wrestling a really long time, really long time. The church really just came almost based on a necessity. Groups are extremely helpful when you're having these weekly broadcasts, and it was just kind of obvious that you take a guy like BG, like myself, and all of a sudden you start bringing new individuals in, especially on a platform like Wrestling Open, where I have the chance to run into brand new wrestlers on an almost weekly basis. And anyone who knows me backstage, this is very much how I am. I'm loud, I'm boisterous. I'm going to talk about the Lord. Anyone who rides up to the Open with me, they're probably going to be listening to the gospel for about 3 hours. It's a whole rigmarole. And because I've been wrestling for so long at so many places throughout the Northeast and beyond, I kind of know everyone already. So people come in, they see I'm there. Oh, Greatness, I haven't seen you in insert how many weeks, months, or years here. This is awesome. Next thing you know, the powers that be start saying, hey, what if? Hey, what if? Hey, what if? And now we have what I think is the third iteration of the Church of Greatness now with the Steves and Anastasia Morningstar. And I do agree. I think this is some of the best work I've gotten the opportunity to do outside of maybe my time at the Bronx Wrestling Federation, but it's a much smaller platform, so no one really knows the stories that happened there. But outside of that, Wrestling Open, Church of Greatness, beyond, it's been a real blessing.
Yeah, and to even talk about this, because there's been a lot of moving parts that have come in and out. And I mean, I think Elijah Six, Jay Huryu, I want to say, boom, Hayden was part of it, Perfect Perkins, Sammy Diaz. And then obviously, the even Stevens are now there.
Yeah.
Brother Somerset and brother Asor and Anastasia's there as well. And so what is this like? Because I've seen this being built in the last year or so. And it's very cool to see how this thing has evolved and how pieces have come in and out. And it works. It's almost continuum. It's like you haven't missed a beat. And that's what's so fascinating about this, is that I don't even care that people are coming in and out of this stable. I'm just like, this stable is here. And then in another 6 months, I'm expecting another person to be there too.
Oh yeah, and the church is a lot deeper than I think a lot of people realize. There's a lot of people, and you'll see a comment here or there on Twitter. I'll just press a like and keep it pushing. Where there are a lot of individuals who would love to be in the church, who I think would be fantastic fits on the church. Before I even get into that, I love, even though it wasn't planned, I love that the church has become such a living organism on the show, because the church is a living organism outside of the Wrestling Open. I think it's a fair parallel in that respect, because you're going to have members enter and exit the congregation. There's going to be different deacons, different people in leadership. Certain churches will have pastors go from different areas throughout the country. It happens all the time. As long as the center is still focused on Christ, you're still going to be all right. So I just love that we've had this consistent movement. The Jay Haru thing is a whole different situation than what I've ever been accustomed to. But
See,
this current iteration is great.
See, what I like about this too is that I took this a little bit differently, where I'm not a very religious person, but I'm not going to interfere with religion. I say let people, do whatever they want, as
Yeah.
long as you're not, preaching to me and telling me what I can and can't do, or what I don't believe in, or what I do believe in. But I don't feel like it's preaching the Church of Greatness, if that makes sense. I feel like it's a very positive stable, because there has been, Christian stables that have been more preachy, and maybe they're trying to get under people's skin a little bit to some degree, and they sometimes are the heels, but I don't feel like this is that. And that's why I think this works too, is that I want to root for the Church of Greatness, and I don't feel like it's preaching to me. And that's what I think you've hit on, is you figured out a way how to get people not to feel like they're being overly preached to in a religious way, but there is a religious undertone, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, because the great thing about both the Church of Greatness and honestly just being Brother Greatness is that it's essentially an extension of me. I'm not gonna go someplace and really knock you over the head with the Bible, hit you with the Philippians 4:13, and keep pushing. This is just my religion and my culture are serious to me, and they are engraved in everything that I do. I don't need everyone to live the lifestyle I'm screaming like, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that. No, I'm just gonna be me, and you kind of take it or leave it. And what's really cool about Worcester, and what's been very interesting from, we talked about it off screen already, right? The first couple weeks in when I first started up versus today, it first was the screaming and these visceral Satan chants, and everyone's thinking that I'm gonna try to shove a Bible up their bum. And now it's become more of, we still don't necessarily like you because I'm coming in there and freaking out at all of Worcester. But there's kind of an appreciation now, and it's been a very intriguing situation. It's almost more than wrestling,
Let's even talk about that too, because obviously I had Junie on, and I've had a few other people. I've had Tyree Taylor on, and I said this, and I was late to Wrestling Open because I was like, this could work, this couldn't work. It was up in the air, I feel, the first few. And nothing against Wrestling Open. Now I might get you and me in trouble a little bit, but the first few were figuring out where they wanted to go in a lot of ways. And I felt that Wrestling Open really started hitting its stride in episode 10 in a lot of ways, where they then said, oh, we now understand our vision and where we want to go. And that's nobody's fault, but sometimes it takes a little time to get into something. And your first few matches, obviously CPA, and then you were starting to form, I feel like, the Church of Greatness with Elijah Six and Sammy Diaz. But then you also had all these matches with Tyree Taylor and Ichiban and Alec Price. And, and then the Church of Greatness started to form. And so what was that like? Because that started to form around, I feel, episode 16 or so.
Yeah.
And so that's when it started really getting good. And that's when I feel like the respect started to change a little bit too, where you're supposed to not be liked, but you're not hated the same way, where there are wrestlers who are hated.
Shout out to Stetson, because they come for they come for his hat and his entire soul on a weekly basis. But no, it was an interesting transition. I think I had the opportunity to kind of do what Wrestling Open was doing, where they were trying to figure themselves out. And I think the crowd was trying to figure out what to do with regards to me in the beginning, with all of these singles matches, all these different stories and situations. And I think all that was necessary so that people understood, this is Brother Greatness. This is what he's about. These are, this is the moves he do. Like, just everything about me prior to now being like, now that you get this, now that you understand what I'm about, let's bring in an entire church of people, because without that opportunity to set it up, right? How are we going to get to the point where we are now, where next week I could come in there with a completely different crew of people and everyone's still going to know exactly what the church is about. They just now have to learn what the members are about now that they've entered the fold.
Yeah, see, I think that's so interesting too, because that's something that Wrestling Open did, where they almost had to set up the rules. Because let's be realistic, what other promotion has a 10-minute time limit, 20 minutes for a main event, has a bunch of people who are normals, or maybe not normal, but regulars. That's a better word for this one. And you have a bunch of people that I've never heard of on the show. And I've been watching wrestling in the indies for about 5 years, and there's people that I still don't know. And I'm like, who is this guy? And I think that's okay to some degree, but also I'm not as educated as, I wish I was. But even still, that's something that's so interesting because you can do that too. And that's what's fascinating about this is that this church is bigger than you at
Yeah.
this point.
Yeah, and it should be. And I love the fact that when I go out, it's actually the only chant I think I like at this point. But I love that anytime I go out and I'm wrestling a singles match now, the first questions once the match begins is, where are the Steves? Where's Anastasia? We want Haru. Like they're just chanting for all the other members because they want the entire church. And it's really an awesome situation where the church is bigger than everything else. But talking about Wrestling Open, you get a little bit of everything. You get to meet new workers. You get to have this big cycle of regulars. It's like 40 different regulars in and out on a weekly basis. And then out of nowhere, it's like, oh, well, by the way, here's Ortiz for giggles. Why not? Here, have fun. Here's Evil Uno. Here, have fun. Here's Wheeler Yuta. Here, have fun. And here's Matt's Caster for 20 episodes and $10,000. Here, have fun. And all of this, all sitting on IWTV. You're spending $10, so you're getting everything else. I sincerely believe that you can make a case for Wrestling Open from episode maybe 15 or 20 till now, with very, very rare misses, to be the best weekly or one of the best weekly episode television shows that are currently out there for professional wrestling.
I think they do a great job. I really do. I think that every once in a while, just an episode misses, but it happens, or a match misses sometimes. Sometimes I'm just bored and I'll go to the bathroom in that match, or it doesn't connect with me, but it's only 10 minutes. That's the thing too, is that, and I'm sure you know this, I've watched the WWE and I'm like, it was great that we got to see these two guys go at it, but we didn't need it to be 35 minutes. It would have been good at 25.
Yeah.
And it's like that extra 10 minutes, I'm like, oh. But then sometimes I'm also saying, look, we needed an hour, like between these two people. And that's happened too. And so, and sometimes I'm like, man, they really hit it. Or I feel like, man, we could have gone for another 4 minutes here on this match and they cut it short. And so, but again, that's just me as a fan. But I do like the fact that Wrestling Open, it's only 10 minutes. Because if I don't know who's wrestling or I'm not caring, I'm like, cool. It's only 10 minutes. And that's the next one. But I also do want to talk about the Church of Greatness, because I think that what helped establish you guys is the bouts with the Miracle Generation, because you've had a lot of those. I think the bouts with Waves and Curls, who I think they're at one of them. Is it Trayvon who's recovering still?
Yeah, regrettably, yeah, issues with his foot. So hopefully he'll be back sooner rather than later. I'd like to kick him in the face. I mean, pray for him.
Yeah. I think you also had some serious bouts with the Haven as well. And like these three teams, in a lot of ways, I feel multiple matches in various forms of the Church of Greatness. Sometimes you were on the outside, sometimes you were involved in the match. And what was this like? Because that's something that is really cool, where I feel like all of you are sort of, in a very similar place where you're building your name. And nobody knew any of you guys until maybe 18 months ago, which is very cool. And I say that as respectably as I can.
No, it's the truth. Miracle Generation. I've known them for a while. I've wrestled them for a long time, since TOS. So probably like at least the last 2 years, I've been fighting these gentlemen with various different partners, various situations, and various different companies. So the rivalry is consistent. With myself and Kylon, it's very real. If you ever get the opportunity to see how we are before a show or backstage or even post show, we're both very aggressive with each other. There's a lot of back and forth, a lot of playing the dozens. So the rivalry with us is very real, and that extended to the Haven because they're all one Miracle Generation. So that entire group, and Ichiban, I've been going back and forth with all of them across multiple companies in the Northeast for about 2 years. It has been very interesting. With Waves and Curls, it's been similar as well, just not as visceral. And a lot of the issues is because myself and Kylon have problems. Now, if I had a consistent tag team partner, maybe this would be a little easier to deal with. But I've had about 10 tag team partners in the last year. It's incredible. So it's really myself and whomever is in the church at the time versus these guys, and I gotta keep whooping on them over and over again. What? You can't bring up Kyle on. I got a little heated. I don't like his hair.
So, let's even go further into that too, because in a lot of ways, I'm going to throw a term around, and it's a political term, a kingmaker. Mm-hmm. And so there are presidents who are kingmakers, and then there are presidents who are not. And for those who don't know what a kingmaker is, it's somebody who can make somebody the next president or be very influential. And to some degree, I feel that's kind of where you are in tag team wrestling and wherever you go. And the fact that you have all these tag partners and everybody who's aligned with you, you know, the Stevens are a good example of this. I think Anastasia to some degree, you know, all those people are getting greatness out of you, no pun intended. But somehow you attract attention and you attract heat or, you know, I guess juice, whatever you want to call it. But in a lot of ways, that's where you're at. And even with these teams too, you know, Waves and Curls, the Miracle Generation, the Haven, and there's a few others. Obviously, I think Main Event you could throw in there a little bit as well. Yep. You know, you're clearly getting, you know, attention, whoever's with you that night. And that's a good position to be in as a wrestler.
It's my blessing. It's definitely my blessing. I'm very hard to ignore. So whoever's around me kind of gets a little bit of that as well, whether they're doing it great or just starting up. It's always going to have that same energy. You're still going to get that same level of entertainment and hopefully that same level of positivity.
But even going further into that, what is that like? Because there are people who obviously have not been doing this as long as you have, and they team with you, and it's almost like a launching off point for them. And even with a team that's brand new and that you're considered the veteran in that match, what is that like? Because if you are, you know, the veteran and you can launch and help launch somebody's career, get them to the next stepping stone, that's kind of a big deal because a lot of people in wrestling don't give back. You know, I'll throw a name out there who gives back a lot, Anthony Green.
Yes.
That guy gives back a lot, but then there are other wrestlers who don't give back at all. I mean, I've been very fortunate enough that Chris Daniels and Kazarian gave back to me early on in my career as an interviewer for interviews. But there are plenty of wrestlers who don't give a goddamn fuck, for lack of a better word here.
Cussing?
Yeah. Next time I'm in Worcester, I'll be throwing 100 into your collection basket.
I'll hold it to it. I'll hold it to it now. I'll come find you. See you standing in the back. Hold on. Excuse me. The match ain't starting yet.
Don't worry. I won't put my niece in the basket, I promise.
Oh, put babies in the basket.
We're going to talk about that too. But getting back to my point, it seems that you are giving back in a lot of ways. And that's something that I think needs to be recognized in a lot of ways as well.
Yeah, no, it's something. I have a sincere belief that the meaning of life is broken down to three things. Following God's word, of course, getting a certain level of joy, true, good, healthy joy. And then the third of those being service. True greatness is found in servitude, which is a light variation of a very specific Bible quote. But before I start preaching accidentally.
You could preach. I'm fine. It's a free show.
Break it out. All right. Open up your Bible apps to Matthew 5. I'm not going to start. But the short version, service is very important in every part of our lives, whether wrestling, in your career, whatever you're doing. So in wrestling, since that seems to be my gift and talent, that seems to be where I get to be the most genuine version of myself. I've had the opportunity to help open a wrestling school with T to T out in Brooklyn. I've had the opportunity to help train people one-on-one. And I try to be somewhat quiet about some of the people that I've helped because, it's kind of, it's better for them marketing wise to be able to say this place or that place as opposed to Brother Greatness did this. I've had an opportunity to pray for people backstage and be in a lot of different groups and a lot of different tag teams and help people get different bookings and such, give rides, what have you. And I don't really understand a way that I could go about professional wrestling without having this service mindset because so many people have helped me. And I feel the only way that I can really move appropriately, both spiritually and if we're talking more in a less in a more worldly sense, how am I gonna expect anything without giving? Given, it will come back to you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and runneth over. It's very significant. I think it's important, whether you are coming from a biblical mindset or a more secular thought process. You have to
very much, that I am not as religious as you. And I've already stated that, but I do believe that if you give, you get what you give out of life.
Yeah.
Who would agree with the right people? So people have been very generous with me, and I've been very generous back, and I've been generous to a lot of other people. And, I like when people are nice to me and generous to me, and I like to pay it forward. I also like to return the favor. And I just take it from good business is good business. I also, I understand the Bible, and I listen to the Bible economically on certain levels where, there's a lot of great economic quotes. There's a lot of things in the Bible about giving. You get what you give. And I don't know them by heart, but I understand the lesson behind it.
Yeah.
And so, and this is why, I was on a show today talking about finance and money, and I was giving a lot of free advice that whoever's going to hear that, it's going to change their life.
Yeah.
Because, and I'm happy to do it, and I feel good when I do it, and it's selfish. It really is selfish because I feel good when I do it. And when I feel good, I tend to do better in life. But I'm not taking something away from somebody. And it sounds weird when you say it that way, but I think that a lot of people in wrestling just do not understand that if you give, you never know when that's going to come back.
Yeah. And we should all give for the sake of giving, but they have that whole philosophical ideology of like, can altruism exist? Because if you do something good, you feel good because you've done it. Therefore, it can no longer be an altruistic ideal. So, like, I see where you're coming from.
It's weird, but I give to organizations that I care about, and it makes me feel good. And then the people I'm around are like, man, you feel good, and we had a great time when we went out that night because you gave, but nobody knows that I gave, but I know I did. And I just feel good about it. Like, I can't explain it. It's so weird, but I digress. It's a 5-hour conversation.
Definitely, we could go down a long avenue with that one. Forget a road; it'd be an avenue or a street.
It's a whole podcast. It's a whole season. But I do want to further go into Wrestling Open because I do want to talk about, I think, the moment that really pivoted you in a lot of ways. So obviously, the Church of Greatness really brought in the Stevens. Anastasia Morningstar was there, and all of you have had great matches. Sometimes you were there, sometimes it was just Anastasia and the Even Stevens. Sometimes the Even Stevens were just representing, which I thought was great because I hear the Church of Greatness and you're not there. And I'm like, this is great. The church is being represented and you're not there. And as much as I like seeing you, I'm like, this means that this thing has gotten bigger.
Yep.
And now it's a concept versus a stable. This is how I view the Stenson Ranch. I don't view it as a stable. I view it as a concept. And that's a different philosophy on wrestling. Because if you create something, now you're like a network. And that's how I view what you've done. And this is brilliant in so many ways.
Yeah, no, and it works very well. And it could only really happen on the Open, at least in the Indies, because, how many other people are doing a weekly program on the independent level? If you try and do this on a monthly basis, it doesn't have the same effect. But I'm at the point now where I understand that if I was not at the Wrestling Open for 3 months and people were still coming out to the same music, still representing the Church of Greatness, and I showed up on the 13th week, should have chose a different number, but on the following week after those 3 months have wrapped up, the reaction would be so similar for the people who've been there for the entire ride, because they're like, there he goes, the leader of the church, and the church has been consistent. I missed 2 weeks on the Open, the Autumn Classic and the and Tag Team Endurance, but you still had the Steves that popped up. But you still have Anastasia popping up. The church rarely misses a week, with or without me, and it has such a similar effect. Absolutely love it, and I'm glad that other individuals are seeing it. So thank you very much for receiving it.
I want to be a member now. Yeah.
Oh, I told you we got more members. It's not just what you see out. It's not just what you see out there. All right, don't make me call Stan. Let me not talk about him. Leave that alone. Leave that alone.
Look, I think it's brilliant, and I'm rooting for you guys. I think it's great. And then there's a moment though that I want to talk about. There's two moments I want to talk about. The baby in the collection basket, brilliant. That is the moment of the year. That has to be the indie moment of the year. And I'm trying to like nominate and like because what that did is that did something that I think just broke the internet. And there are people who had no idea what Wrestling Open was, and they saw that without a doubt. And I'm going to just go out on a limb here. I think that was just happened. I don't know if that was planned. I don't know what your reaction was, but I saw that and I'm like, brilliant. This is the moment where you couldn't have. The saying is, you step in shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it works. I've been there, and things happen that way for me, and I'm like, oh my god, this is brilliant. And part of me cussing here, but that's the only way I could describe it. But what was that like? That's the moment that I think made you legit, if that makes any sense, and change your career.
That was strange. Definitely not planned on any level. I'm just doing my entrance as always, and you see the people have put so many weird things in the basket. We've gotten Satan bucks where they made customized not today's Satan dollar bills with me laid out in the middle. They made shirts and keychains with my face in a pentagram, completely unacceptable. They've given me food, half-eaten Jello shots, dirt, like literal sand from Bish at the beach because they were sad I wasn't there, so they brought me some sand from the event. They've given me so much. One of the fans gave me the green robe that I wear to the ring sometimes. Said, here, I found this. I was like, how did you find a robe? You know what? Whatever. I'm just going to leave it alone. So at this point, they had already put a loaf of bread and a package of Swedish fish in the basket that night. This is all during the entrance. Entrance is 35 seconds. They already put bread and Swedish fish because, the fish and loaves, And I'm just like, okay, I get it. This is the best thing they've ever put in the basket. They've been reading their Bibles. The message is getting across in the sinful town of Worcester. All is well. And I get over here now. Not a lot of people know this. I don't see well. I don't wear contacts in the ring. So I cannot see. And the old basket was very long. So someone put something in the basket. I don't know what it is until I get the basket closer to me. So I push the basket out, and the gentleman who always flips me the bird is preparing to flip me off as he typically does. And I look up and I think someone's putting a doll in the basket. And I don't know why they would put a doll in the basket. So I come closer because the doll's heavy and they haven't let go of the doll as of yet. And I hear the basket straining already. So I get closer and this man and we know they had a baby. The Wrestling Open roster made a video for the baby. The baby's name is Sadie. And I look and I'm like, is that Sadie? That cannot be Sadie. And the baby's just relaxing like it's normal for her to go in a basket. So I didn't know I just stared at the baby because I didn't know what the baby was doing. I don't know what the father was doing. I couldn't see the mother. Y'all gonna put a baby in the basket. I didn't know what to do. I just stared at the baby. What am I gonna do with the baby? Am I supposed to adopt the baby? 2 weeks later, we did christen the baby. That's somewhere floating around Twitter. Pastor Mike from the Field of Dreams, he came down and we christened the baby right at the merch table 2 weeks later. So the baby's been legitimately christened. She has the certificate. It's all done. I didn't know what to think. I didn't think it would go so crazy on Twitter, though. I didn't think that would fly all over the place.
I thought it was brilliant. and I didn't think it was planned.
I was
And
terrified. It was not planned. There was nothing planned about it.
so
Rewatch the footage and look at my face and tell me that looks like a man who knew that they were going to try to put a baby in the basket. Because if we planned it, I would have told them leave the baby in the basket, and I would have gone in the ring with the baby, and I would have prayed for the baby in the basket, and it gave back the baby for the match start. That would have been my plan.
I thought it was brilliant. I thought that it was so smart, and I thought that you could call it a blessing. I thought somebody had an idea. I thought somebody was doing you a solid, man, whether you realize it or not, because this is the moment. If this does not win an IWTV award, we are all doomed.
Well,
Yeah.
vote for it. Vote for it. Tell everyone to vote for it because there's a lot of great IWTV moments out there. I'd love for me and the baby to win the award. I'll send the award to the baby because the baby was at Wrestling Open last night. I saw the baby. We'll give the baby the award.
I thought it was brilliant. I thought that and again, this to me, it was the pivoting point. And I'm like, I got to speak to you about this because it was one of those things where I'm just like, this is what makes wrestling great. Yeah. This is what makes wrestling great. And this is what makes it so wholesome when something like this happens. Because let's be realistic. My life is hard. A lot of people's lives are hard.
Yep.
And people come and watch wrestling, and it's moments like this that make people for 45 seconds or an hour forget about all the difficulties they have in their life. And Wrestling Open does that. But this, to me, is the moments that people shoot this to their friends. Say, man, I'm having a bad day. And they'll shoot the 45-second clip to their friends. And they'll be like, my day just got a little bit better. And so this is why I think this is so important. And let's be realistic, this is gold for Wrestling Open. Yeah. This is gold for them too. And it's gold for you. It's gold for the church. It's gold for everybody involved. And that baby now has something to put on their college application.
As seen on Wrestling Open.
It's
Shout out to baby Sadie, ready to get her bachelor's. Love it.
It's so good. And then the other moment is the sponsorship with Drew Gulak.
Yeah.
That was cool too, because he is he still with WWE? It's complicated, right? Because
yeah, last I checked, he's still there. I mean, I met him one time, a very long time ago. We had a very short conversation. He gave me some good advice, and that was that. And the sponsorship program started. I didn't know if I was gonna get sponsored by anyone. And I found out on Twitter in the morning, just like everybody else. The announcement just popped up. I didn't get a message. I had no idea. And I see that, and I just looked. I'm like, well, there's a fan named Drew Gulak? Oh, what are the odds? And luckily they tagged him and all. He responded to it, and I'm just sitting down. So I called another wrestler who you don't see on the Open, a New York-based wrestler called Abraham Khan. I call him. I'm like, Abraham, can you go on Twitter for me and tell me what you see? Takes a look. He tells me, is there a fan named Drew Gulak? I'm like, that's what I said. So it took a little bit of time for it to sink in, but yeah, no, if I have to choose a moment, that was the coolest moment for me for Wrestling Open. I don't know how that's going to get defeated. I don't know how. That was amazing. That was amazing. How do you do that?
It's weird because obviously, that's also high praise, Yeah. It's weird. And so this is just me personally. There have been people, and I said, obviously I had Chris Daniels and Kazarian separately on my show. And that story is a amazing story. They were in a comic shop and I couldn't go. I got Kazarian first privately, but they were in a comic shop in Harrison. And then my mom and my dad went to go to a signing where they were signing Prince with the Young Bucks of all people. And Kazarian remembers me, and I was just stupid enough to ask. This was between Impact and AEW. And I just so happened to open up a comic book, and their emails and their personal emails were in the book. And nobody was smart enough to shoot them an email, apparently. But I was, or stupid enough, or fearless enough. I'll take either one. But It's
a nice mix of both.
hey, my point is that I took a risk and I said, what's the worst that's going to happen? But again, it's high praise when people who are very prominent come on my show, and people who are like, you do not have the views, but I want to be here, and it's a weird thing, and so I would imagine it's similar.
Yeah, no, pretty much the same feeling. Blown away, humbled, excited, and you never know who's watching you. You really never know. I just really am appreciative of the platform, appreciative of him, appreciative of the fans who, no matter what they're saying, are saying something consistently throughout the contest, and allowing me to come out there and be a unique part of the show and consistently doing what needs to be done to make sure that I keep being welcomed back to this platform. It's amazing.
Yeah, even to talk about that even further, I mean, you've been sponsored ever since. You haven't had a sponsorship problem, I think, right?
No, not yet. Not yet. This week I was a little worried because I got sponsored yesterday morning, like day of the show. I was like, oh, I guess I'm not getting a sponsorship. But yeah, no, I got Gulat first, an individual that I did an interview like this, very similar with How Great Is Thou Art. It's more of a religious podcast, but he's also a big wrestling fan, so he does a few wrestling ones as well. And he reached out to me, and we talked about the sponsorship program. So he decided to jump in. Then I missed the 2 weeks, Thanksgiving and Tag Team Endurance. Swing back, and then the group Provider, a Brooklyn-based producing group, two gentlemen, Corey and Jay. And they make beautiful music. They have a Dark Almond, which is doing very well on Spotify right now. Really good R&B flavor, very 90s, very much my kind of music. And they're both very involved in their prospective churches. Corey's a drummer at his church. His father is a deacon, so got to know them pretty well. So the sponsorship situation has been really good for me, and it's been helping the entire team because we're driving for a very long time. We're missing hours at shoot jobs or what have you, and Wrestling Open does not pay a ton of money because the tickets are $10. So the sponsorship package is really saving grace for all of us.
Yeah, it's very interesting. There is a match that I'm probably going to sponsor, and I'm going to pay to get everybody to watch it because I think it's going to be a great match. It's public what I want, and I'm thinking January. I want Junie Underwood versus Ray Jazz.
I'd watch that. That sounds great.
Yeah, I'm going to sponsor both of them at the same time. That's because Ray Jazz follows me, and I don't know why. There's no good reason for Ray Jazz to follow me on Twitter. There's no good reason, and he does. So
Ray is a weird guy. Even if you had a chance to ask him, you probably won't have an answer for you.
He'll say, because I know you're going to move to Jersey at some point in your life.
Probably. Sounds like Ray.
One of these days before he gets signed, because he is WWE or AEW bound. There's no question about it. Yeah. I have no doubt. I would not bet against that position.
See, he's young. He has a great body, great look, the right training. NCAA,
the guy should be in NXT in the next year and a half.
I wouldn't be surprised. I'd like my shot at him first, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I want an interview with him before he goes. I that's what I want. And I know his final match on the Indies, who it should be. And I'll throw it out there. It should be AJ.
You think so?
Yep, absolutely. That should be his farewell match. That should be his farewell match on the Indies.
I understand what you're saying, but I want him last. But we'll let that pass. I want him last. I gotta stop the undefeated streak at the Open. I want that for the church. But I respect it though.
No. Fine. You can get him. AG will get him right before, and then you can finish him off. Anyway, that's the point. Oh,
good compromise.
That's what we do here. We're all about negotiations. But yeah, and then I want to talk about one more wrestler before we get out of here, and that's Love Doug. And I think that was brilliant too, in so many ways.
I don't know a man named Love Doug. I know Lust Douglas. I'm very familiar with Lust Douglas, and his sinful, shameful ways. I'm And I want everyone to remember that the last time the church dealt with Les Douglas and friends, the church left with a win. I just want to make sure that I say this on a public forum.
There's no tender loving that night.
That's okay. Okay, I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one. There's the round of applause. I gotta give you that one. That's pretty great.
It wasn't brother greatness though.
Close enough. Close enough.
That's what we do on this show. We make really, really bad jokes in so many ways.
I'm a walking dad joke, so I'm like, if that's what you're here for, I'm here with it.
I can't wait to have kids because I'm gonna have so many ready to go off the chain. It's gonna be great.
Don't wait for the kids. Just drop one on everyone. Just drop the dad jokes wherever you go. Someone will pick them up. But the program with Douglas was enjoyable. And I'm glad that I did work with him as soon as he came back from that injury. I think it fit.
I thought it was a very, very well matchup, and I thought it was a fun one too. And I thought that it was much needed for him more than you, to be very honest. Where he needed that program to come off, and then he's been repositioned nicely, I feel. And not to break kayfabe, but he needed that to ease in to get back into the flow.
Yeah, no, I think it was important for him to get back in there immediately into a story, and one that I will always be happy to tell. For anyone that's within that big circle of my 7 deadly sins of Wrestling Open, any opportunity to work with any of them allows me to tell a very specific story and drop a very specific message. So I'm hoping I get to do the exact same thing with Trayvon when he comes back. It's just a shame that I won't get to do it with Alec. But, you know, as Stan Michael would say, Stan Michael's a great wrestler. Everyone should look him up. Young guy. But as Stan Michael would say, more on that later.
All I'm going to say about wrestling is never say never.
Yep.
I mean, people thought AG there weren't going to be matches with Anthony Green, and a lot of people are getting that because you can be signed somewhere, you could be banned somewhere, but never say never.
Yeah, you have no idea what's going to happen in all this. You never really do. Wrestling is strange. It's the only thing no one really stops. People talk about wrestlers retiring. Wrestlers don't retire. They die. Like they wrestle forever. You never know when they're going to come back, what they're going to do, how they're going to move.
I'll throw a name out there. I mean, I don't know how much you know about my show, but I had the Bushwhackers on, and one of them is still wrestling.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no BS here where there are people who are still wrestling, and I never thought I would get the Bushwhackers on. There's a good chance I'm going to get ODB on at some point. in the next 12 months, there's a good chance. And I happen to know a lot of interesting people, and you never know who's coming on my show. But that's that. But yeah, I can't wait for you and Alec to turn it up. And I think it's coming. I think people think it won't happen, and I think it will. It's just where and when. That's the question now.
Because I got Alec once, and it was felt more like a snack for the audience. And I know a lot of people the weeks after that match were just like, wow, when are we going to get the full dose of that? Kind of like what you said before, where it's like, oh yeah, it's great to have these short matches, but then sometimes you look at them and you say, I wish I had another 10 minutes. I wish I had another 20 minutes. And I think people say that a lot with Alec matches, but I think myself and him do something a little unique just because of how verbal we are in the ring. Versus
I was very privileged to interview Alec back a while back, and very, very privileged early on. I think this season, or it might have been even season 2. I don't even remember anymore, but very privileged in a lot of ways. And I recognize that it was just right time, right place. And so I'm very appreciative of that, and I can't wait to see where he ends up because he is so talented.
He's tremendous.
It's amazing, but I know you got to get out of here soon, so I do want to give you a chance to preach or promote yourself, depending on what word you want to use here. But I know you got a lot of stuff. I know you got, I think, a Pro Wrestling Tees that I put in the bio up above. I know that you're looking for sponsors all the time for Wrestling Open. There's money there. I probably will be buying a t-shirt either today or tomorrow from you. So I don't know which one I'm going to buy yet. I haven't actually looked at them. There's
a big list, so you'll probably find something you like.
I'll pick something up. I have to buy a Ray Jazz t-shirt too, but that's my next paycheck because I got paid today. So I get to buy things when I get paid. Hey, I got a cool job, everybody. And I'm in a good position economically for once.
Oh, beautiful.
Very, very nicely. And I'm setting up my future nicely too, because I have a nice 401k. So that's good too. But yeah, anyway, enough about me, but where could people find you, bother you, hit you up, preach with you, obviously enjoy you, sponsor you, buy your t-shirts. It's either up above, down below, to the side. I forget where it is in the bio, but that's your Pro Wrestling Tees. But yeah, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, so the Pro Wrestling Tees is there. Easiest place to get the shirts. A lot of the shirts there you will only be able to get on Pro Wrestling Tees. That's just what it is right now. There's Teespring, teespring.com/Brother Greatness. You'll be able to get cups, the fanny packs, all that fun stuff. I'm like everyone else. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Brother Greatness, Be Greatness 27. I'm sorry, Be Greatness 2012. Recently changed it. You can also find me, Brother Greatness, on the Facebook like page. If you want to see me compete every Thursday, or at least almost every Thursday, on IWTV, 7:45 p.m. Wrestling Open out of Worcester every Thursday. Really going to make that my priority going into 2023, and the biggest match I have coming up outside of the Open for IWTV, presenting the WrestleVille at Pizza Party Pro. The first night for the first show of WrestleVille on, I believe that's December 29th. I'll be going 1-on-1 against Eel O'Neill in a match that will allow people to see what I can truly do within the squared circle, the altar that we call the square circle. So extremely excited for that more than anything else right now.
That'll be a fun one. I like him. He's great.
Eel is different, and I look forward to showing him and all the people who watch IWTV that I'm superior to him within the squared circle.
I have no comment.
I don't get to show it off too often, so I plan to do so.
I have no comment because I would like to interview a lot of these people, and I don't know. So, but enough about that. I do want to quickly go into this and I'm going to say it again, so I know I got to let you get out of here, but you need to support wrestling and you need to support wrestlers. Ways to do that is watching wrestling legally. That's a big thing. IWTV is not that expensive. It's $100 a year. It really is $100 a year, and it's not that difficult to support wrestling legally. Also, there's a lot of stuff on YouTube that's free, and you're supporting it, and watch the ads because that goes to that company, and that's a big thing. And then going further, following people on social media makes a big difference. Also, buying their merch. T-shirts goes a long way. If they got 8x10s, even just retweeting with them and engaging with them, that goes a long way. And it makes a difference. It makes a big difference. And you might not think it does, but it really, truly makes a difference. And as far as I'm concerned, obviously, all my social media is down below. It's Pop Anime Comics on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, on YouTube. I appreciate when people interact with me. I really do. I appreciate when people actually subscribe to my YouTube channel. You might not think it makes a difference, but it makes a huge difference in so many fashions. I appreciate when people, are just nice to me, say, hey, man, really appreciate the interview. It makes me feel good, and it's important, and that's what I want. I want people to actually watch this stuff and engage. I also like when people follow me on Twitter and want to have a conversation with me. I like hate when people hate me too. I enjoy anything of that nature. I also appreciate when people do buy my t-shirt on Redbubble. It's making fun of Gundam, Taco Bell, the most interesting man in the world, and a bunch of other stuff. So that is my t-shirt. It's available in 16 different colors, and it's in the link as well. And yeah, that's everything I got. And I know you got a minute, so you're going to take us out.
Brothers and sisters of the congregation, thank you for watching the Conversations of Pop Culture. God bless you and have a fantastic night. We'll see you Thursday on IWTV.